Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, we're going to talk some boxing. And we're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to talk about the fighter of the decade again. We're also going to talk about the fighter of the year, last year that passed. We'll talk about that as well. We'll also talk about some current events in boxing. So let's get into it. So for the fighter of the decade, I thought it was pretty interesting hearing people talk about the fighter of the decade. And Bob Arum just very recently talked about how Manny Pacquiao, he had the same view as I did in terms of who was the fighter of the decade. That is, he thought Manny Pacquiao was the fighter of the decade. And he said it wasn't really an argument as to him being the fighter of the decade. In fact, he said Floyd Mayweather in no way even comes close to Manny Pacquiao being the fighter of the decade. Now, I disagree with that. And I'm going to go through reasons why Mayweather could be the fighter of the decade, and a lot of people believe that. And more people actually believe he is the fighter of the decade. More people chose him, even on the poll that I did. They chose him over Pacquiao. I have Pacquiao as the fighter of the decade. I'll explain why. And then we'll talk about the fighter of last year and why that person is the fighter of last year. And also we'll also talk about who is the pound for pound number one in the world as well. So let's get into these two, Mayweather and Pacquiao, fighter of the decade. And then I'm going to talk about the possibility of Manny Pacquiao facing Floyd Mayweather this year. So, first things first. People say that Manny Pacquiao is the fighter of the decade. The argument is not one which does not carry weight. Okay? I'm going to give you, some people even say Canelo, but I'm going to just talk about Pacquiao and Floyd. Manny Pacquiao has faced the following people in this decade. In 2010, he faced Joshua Clottey. In 2011, he faced Antonio Margarito. In 2012, he faced Timothy Bradley, and he also faced Juan Manuel Marquez. He also faced Shane Mosley in 2011. In 2013, he faced Brandon Rios. 2014, he faced Timothy Bradley and Chris Algieri. In 2015, he faced Floyd Mayweather. And then in 2016, he faced Adrian Broner. In 2016, he faced Jeff Horn. And then in 2017, he faced Lucas Matisse. Then in 2018, he faced... In 2016, he faced Jeff Horn. Then he faced Timothy Bradley a third time. I think it was before or after Jeff Horn. I can't remember. Jesse Vargas, I think, was in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And Jeff Horn was in 2018. 2019, he faced Adrian Broner and Keith Thurman. That's a hell of a resume. All right? Everybody on that resume that I spoke about had been a world champion, except for Lucas Matisse, who had been interim champion twice. Well, he was a regular WBA champion, which is like an interim champion. And he was in the super lightweight division WBC interim champion when he beat Lamar Peterson. That's a hell of a resume. A hell of a resume. And the thing about it is, considering that Manny Pacquiao was 30 years old at the beginning of the decade, and at the end of the decade was 40 years old, that is a remarkable achievement, having beaten the super champion Keith Thurman, number 3 welterweight in the world, former unified world champion, WBC, WBA world champion, was it WBC? Yes, WBC, WBA world champion, as well as number 1 welterweight in the world formerly. That's a big accomplishment. Huge. Nobody thought he was going to. I didn't think he was going to beat Keith Thurman. Most people did, but I didn't think so. So, that's the candidate we're talking about for fighter of the decade. Now, out of all those people in the decade, he did lose to Timothy Bradley. He did lose to Floyd Mayweather. And he did lose to Juan Manuel Marquez in devastating fashion, in knockout fashion. And then he lost to Jeff Horn. So there were 4 defeats in that whole thing. But everybody else he dominated and won. There was no draws. He beat everybody else, and we're talking about rematches. Same Timothy Bradley rematched him, and he beat him twice. So that pretty much takes Timothy Bradley. Floyd Mayweather, he may get a rematch this year, 2020. We'll see. We'll look out to see what Pacquiao does. But by and large, he didn't get to rematch Jeff Horn and Juan Manuel Marquez, even though he had beaten Juan Manuel Marquez multiple times before. So, fighter of the decade, Manny Pacquiao. Now, the reason I gave for Manny Pacquiao being fighter of the decade was solely on the basis that he fought through the entire decade. That's pretty much it. Ain't nobody's resume even comes close to him. And the fashion in which he beat most of these opponents is, something of incredible magnitude, on top of the fact that Manny Pacquiao left his home country, never fought at home. He never fought in the Philippines through that whole entire time. I thought it was just remarkable. And some of them calls that he lost, some people argue that he actually won those fights. You know, they say that the Timothy Bradley fight is controversial. The Jeff Horn fight was controversial. You know, there was the definitive wins with Mayweather, but even some people dispute that, saying he had a hand injury. And with Juan Manuel Marquez, he dropped Marquez once. He was going in for the kill, and he got killed instead. So, Manny Pacquiao, fighter of the decade. We're talking about a guy who campaigned at his maximum weight class, which is welterweight, and he had come all the way up from flyweight. Thinking about his history, just all the accomplishments and so on you put into that equation, the man being a living legend, the fact that his longevity was just remarkable, the fact that he could come back from a loss and bounce back strong, all of these incredible things, and the fact that his fights were extremely exciting, that's what gives me, in my opinion, him the fighter of the decade. But let's go to Floyd Mayweather. When it comes to quality of opposition, nobody comes close to Floyd Mayweather, okay? In the beginning of the decade, he faced Shane Mosley when Shane Mosley was the #1 welterweight in the world, having just destroyed Antonio Margarito. I mean, destroyed him. Okay, came back, faced Floyd Mayweather, almost dropped Floyd Mayweather in the second round. Floyd Mayweather came back from that and punished Shane Mosley, and Mosley was never the same. Okay, he never was dominant like how he used to be. He never became #1 welterweight in the world. He was never in the pound-for-pound list anymore after Floyd destroyed him. And this is Mosley coming off of 2 knockout wins against Ricardo Mayorga at 154, come down to 147, and destroyed Antonio Margarito. That was the Mosley we're talking about. You know, Mosley was up in age. Then, in 2011, he faced vicious Victor Ortiz, coming off of stunning, shocking upset of Andre Berto, who was undefeated at the time, had been more true. Everybody thought to be indestructible, was a guy that they wanted to see face Floyd Mayweather at the time because they said he had Mayweather's style. That's how they thought of him. Vicious Victor Ortiz having wins over a multitude of very great names, having a loss against Marcos Maidana. They said he quit. He had been dropped twice. He had dropped Marcos Maidana once. It was a very vicious fight in which Victor Ortiz just kind of stopped fighting. He said, you know, I'm preserving myself to another day. But other than that, he had been mowing through just about everybody else, and he had knockout wins over very good opponents. Some guys who are legendary fighters. Okay, Floyd eventually ending up KOing him, but mainly through a clinch. He hit him with a 1-2 when he wasn't looking and took him out. But he was beating him in the fight. After that fight, Floyd Mayweather fought Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto is a Hall of Famer. We're talking about Hall of Famers right now. And Miguel Cotto was a Hall of Famer and is a show ballot Hall of Famer. Cotto, after that loss, going on to become middleweight champion of the world. Okay? And also super welterweight champion of the world as well. Then Mayweather went on to face Robert Guerrero, and then he went on to face Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is arguably one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world today. I believe he is pound-for-pound #1. I will give you my arguments for why he is. I'll also call him fighter of the decade, fighter of the year. I'll give you the reasons why I give him as the fighter of the year. So that's a guy he beat. And then after that, and this is a guy he fought above his weight class, welterweight, super welterweight. He's not even a full-fledged super welterweight, Floyd Mayweather. Nor is Pacquiao. Then after that, he went on to face Marcos Maidana, who coming off of a outstanding win, again, a big upset against Adrian Broner. Marcos Maidana knocking down Adrian Broner twice in the fight to beat him comprehensively. Of course, more through guys like Josecito Lopez at welterweight. Tough man. I forgot what his name is. The guy who also stopped Andre Berto in the 12th round. All right, having his only loss to Devin Alexander at welterweight. He would face Marcos Maidana twice in 2014, rematching him because the first fight was very close. And that was 2014. 2015, he then faced the legendary Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, coming off of a dominant performance against Chris Algieri, unofficially knocking him down twice, officially knocking him down 6 times. Very dominant performance against the current super lightweight WBO world champion. And he also had another victory against Timothy Bradley and also against Brandon Rios. The Timothy Bradley second fight, I think, is the one that really convinced me that Pacquiao was the goods. And then, after facing Manny Pacquiao, he would close off his career with Andre Berto, come back in 2017, face Conor McGregor. I don't really care about those 2 other fights. I know that Floyd Mayweather did huge events, and most people say that Mayweather's fighter of the decade because of huge events. I don't see that. I see the quality of opposition he faced. We're talking about Hall of Famers such as Pacquiao, Canelo, future Hall of Famer, Show Battle, Cotto, Mosley, okay? He faced 4 Hall of Famers within that decade, even though that span of time when he faced those 4 Hall of Famers, really 5 years, half the decade, it's still the highest level of opposition you could face. When you think about Manny Pacquiao, I don't even think he might have matched it, but he didn't beat all of them. I think he had Mayweather, Bradley, who's a Show Battle Hall of Famer, Shane Mosley, when Shane Mosley was a bit past it, and he also faced Juan Manuel Marquez, who beat him, knocked him out. Okay, so when you look at it, he only had 2 wins over 2 Hall of Famers and 2 losses over 2. And that's great that he faced Hall of Famers. But when you look at quality of opposition, nobody comes close to Floyd Mayweather. Okay, nobody comes close. And we're talking about, if you thought a Pacquiao faces that Canelo, that Pacquiao faced that Canelo that faced Floyd Mayweather, Canelo still beats Pacquiao because it's just too big for Pacquiao. Most people would think, oh, no, that's not even possible. I mean, Pacquiao going up to super welterweight and trying to face Canelo at 152, still ain't going to happen. Canelo still beat his ass, all right? And that's just a tribute to just how enormously incredible Floyd Mayweather's performances were. So what they're really looking at, really, and then when you look at Floyd Mayweather's resume all around, you know, 5-divisional world champion, and the guys he faced, the quality of opposition he faced throughout his career, is ridiculous. You take out Conor McGregor, you take out Andre Berto, and you're looking at straight, tough fights all the way through. Mayweather made it look simple, but them guys wasn't ordinary guys, okay? Miguel Cotto was a 3-divisional world champion when Floyd Mayweather faced him. All right, facing names, you know, just the who's who of boxing. All right, Cotto's faced the who's who of boxing. And still, you look at his record, he faced the who's who's of boxing. Shane Mosley, same thing. You know, Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, you know, YML Marquez, you know, these are all Hall of Famers I'm talking about, right? Show Battle Hall of Famers. Manny Pacquiao, right? Jose Luis Castillo, Gennaro Hernandez, Diego Corrales, Zab Judah, you know, the who's who of boxing is in there. The who's who of boxing is in there, right? So Floyd Mayweather's career is just ridiculous. Now, all those guys I just mentioned were Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. So, I mean, you look at Mayweather's career, you look at Pacquiao's career, it's incredible. It's, you know, Pacquiao got an even more remarkable career because he came all the way up from flyweight. But at the end of the day, this is the point I'm making. The people who talk about Floyd Mayweather being fighter of the decade is because in that small space of time that Mayweather fought, which was half a decade, he beat 4 Hall of Famers. And every time he faced those Hall of Famers, they were at the top of their game. It wasn't like how Pacquiao faced Shane Mosley when he was not at the top of his game. It's not like when Pacquiao faced, who else did he face that was not at the top of the game? Antonio Margarito. He's not a Hall of Famer, but Antonio Margarito wasn't at the top of his game when Manny Pacquiao faced him. He wasn't, right? Shane Mosley had dethroned him, and he was fighting for a vacant title that the WBC just kind of awarded him out of the clear blue sky, okay, against Pacquiao. So you can't compare Floyd Mayweather and his resume and his performances to Manny Pacquiao. And even though Pacquiao fought through the entire decade, a lot more guys lost to some, he don't have a resume like Floyd Mayweather. He just don't, okay? Now, having said that, my thing was, and my whole argument was, Pacquiao fought through the decade. I think that's the thing that I get credit for. All right, we're going to go into the other things now. So fighter of the decade, if people say Floyd Mayweather, I get it. I get why they say Floyd Mayweather, okay? My thing is it's Pacquiao, but I can see why people say it's Floyd Mayweather. Now, when Bob Arum said Floyd Mayweather doesn't even come close to Pacquiao, I disagree with that. I can see why people would say Floyd Mayweather, okay? And there are a lot of people who think, even outside of boxing, that Floyd Mayweather got that. And it wasn't because of the money that he made. I always make the point, separate the money that he made. That'll make you fighter of the decade. Look at the fighters he faced. But then when you think about fighter of the decade, you have to also think about how exciting and entertaining the fights were. Again, it's based on your taste, okay? Obviously, Mayweather style, for those who love boxing and are boxing purists, they're going to love Mayweather style. And they would say, no, this man was the fighter of the decade. He just was, okay? If you like action-packed fights, then Pacquiao's your dude. So it really is a preference of taste to some degree. But at the end of the day, I thought Pacquiao fought through the entire decade. And especially in the latter part of his career, he was doing things that Mayweather wasn't doing. He was facing bona fide boxers, not a Conor McGregor, okay? Yes, he fought kind of like an Andre Berto-like guy in Adrian Broner. Broner's better than Berto, but nonetheless. But at the end of the day, much better defense. But at the end of the day, I thought that Manny Pacquiao did better in the latter part of his career, especially this past year there and 2017. I thought he did better than Mayweather. Okay? Now, fighter of the year. Fighter of the year is real simple. This is not tough. This is not tough. Fighter of the year would go to a guy who's faced top tier competition, and performed better than anybody else against him. Right? That's pretty much it. In my book. Yes, obviously, you have to also have exciting fights. You got to be the most entertaining, etc. So what are the candidates for Fighter of the Year? We've got Nail Inoue, Vasily Lomachenko, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., Deontay Wilder, Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez. These are some of the front runners, right? Let's go through each and every one of them. Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder got 2 beautiful knockouts, okay? 2 beautiful knockouts. Very entertaining fights. The one with Luis Ortiz. You know, Luis Ortiz was dominating him in terms of boxing. He was just dominating. Then Wilder got the perfect shot in. Knocked him the fuck out. Dominic Breazeale, tough guy. You know, comes to fight. Is durable. Knocked him the fuck out in the first round. Right? Explosive. Entertaining. But the level of competition. He had faced Luis Ortiz before. He had knocked him out before. And when you look at Luis Ortiz and his depth of resume, who the people that he actually beat in his career, we only got one name. He only got one name that's something worth talking about. Right? That guy's the Philadelphia fighter who fought Vladimir Klitschko. That's the only name he got. He ain't got nobody else. Okay? But he's a good fighter. He's a Cuban boxer. He can box. We've seen it in the first fight with Wilder. We've seen it in the second fight, but Wilder had his number. Dominic Breazeale. Good fighter. Tough fighter. I say good fighter in the sense that he's not a great boxer at all. By any chance, he don't have good defense at all. He's durable. And he carried Anthony Joshua 7 rounds before Anthony Joshua knocked his ass out. He had faced Anthony Joshua. Before that, he had faced some semi-okay fighter, Gerald Washington, etc., etc. You know, that African, the kid from Philadelphia as well. I forgot what his name is. Amir Mansour, I think is his name. Amir Mansour. I stopped it. Gerald Washington also. Good fighter. But Dominic Breazeale, he got stopped by Wilder. Okay? So let's consider Deontay Wilder. Put him on the side. Remember the level of opposition. Dominic Breazeale, Okay fighter, not a world champion. And Luis Ortiz, better fighter, better boxer, quality guy, ducked a lot or avoided a lot, but not really ducked because he's been offered to fight certain people and he didn't fight. But he got one marquee name on that, and it's a Philadelphia fighter. I can't remember. He just recently faced the kid from England. Ryan Jennings, that's the name. When we look at, so let's move down to the other side. His competition, okay, not world champions, don't have deep depths of resume, both of them, but one has some skills, the other one's durable. On to the next guy, Vasily Lomachenko. He faced Luke Campbell and he faced Anthony Corolla. Anthony Corolla was not world champion when Vasily Lomachenko faced him. In fact, he had been beaten previously by what's his name? The former WBC lightweight champion of the world, whose name slips me at this present point in time, but it will come back to me. Jorge Linares, that's the name. Jorge Linares beat him. He did get a good win over Ricky Burns. He got a good win over Ricky Burns, but Ricky Burns was kind of passive, but nonetheless, he did get a win over Ricky Burns. A number of people got wins over Ricky Burns. Ricky Burns is an okay fighter, but anyway. And then he went on to lose to Vasily Lomachenko. All right? Wasn't the world champion. He lost the championship to Jorge Linares, but he was a good fighter. Anthony Corolla, in fact, he had two fights. He had a close fight with Jorge Linares, and in his rematch, Jorge Linares took it completely. Right. And Jorge Linares is a good fighter. He ain't the greatest fighter. You know, DeMarco had knocked his ass out and all that stuff, but that's another story for another day. Let's go on. So, after Anthony Corolla, he faced Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell never been a world champion. Did face Jorge Linares, got dropped by Jorge Linares, but he brought the fight back close, having a split decision loss to Jorge Linares. That's the highlight of his career. He also lost to another guy, rematched him, and beat him. All right. Luke Campbell, solid fighter, not a superstar, not a Hall of Famer. Okay? No Hall of Famers here. Lomachenko may, at the end of his career, have one Hall of Famer if things work out well, and that guy could be, it could be Guillermo Rigondeaux. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. He's been avoided a lot, and he hasn't faced any top-tier competition in a while. Vasily Lomachenko has a depth of resume, though. He's faced many world champions and former world champions throughout his career. Guys I mentioned are like Orlando Salido, Gary Russell Jr., who's currently WBC featherweight world champion. He faced Nicholas Walters. He faced Jason Sosa. He faced Jorge Linares, Jose Pedraza, Anthony Corolla. So he's had a good share of world champions he's faced, or former world champions, in his 15 fights. He only has 15 fights, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And he's going towards being undisputed. He's going to be facing the IBF world champion right now, whose name is Teofimo Lopez. All right? And we'll see how it goes. Is Teofimo Lopez too green for Lomachenko? Or is he just the right age and strength and size to beat his ass down and get him out of there? We'll see. But Vasily Lomachenko last year, he faced Anthony Corolla and he faced Luke Campbell. They're solid guys, but they weren't world champions. Luke Campbell had one good name on his resume, and that was Jorge Linares, whereas Anthony Corolla beat one good name. He lost to Jorge Linares, just like Luke Campbell did. And he had one good win, which was Ricky Burns. Sweep back Lomachenko for a minute. Let's go to Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford last year faced two guys. One guy with a deep resume in Amir Khan, and the other guy being Egidijus Gavaliauskas, who ain't got a deep resume at all, right? Amir Khan at super lightweight was a force to reckon with until he bounced up Lamont Peterson. After the Lamont Peterson fight, he got knocked the fuck out right after by Danny Garcia. And since then, he's not faced any Hall of Famers or any top-tier competition except for Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. But at welterweight, he has not faced top tier competition, and he has never won against any top tier competition since then. But at super lightweight, before Lamont Peterson, he faced legendary fighters like Zab Judah, Marco Antonio Barrera. He faced Marcos Maidana. He's not legendary, but Zab Judah's legendary. Okay, Marco Antonio Barrera's legendary. Marcos Maidana's not legendary, but he's a good fighter. These are names in boxing. I'm trying to remember if there are any other names. There's a couple other names. Oh yeah, Paulie Malignaggi. He's not legendary either, but he's a good fighter at super lightweight. So those are the guys that he faced and he beat. But after that fact, after the Lamont Peterson loss and then the Danny Garcia loss, he has been very soft. Alright? Zab Judah is a legendary fighter and he's a Hall of Famer, show ballot, and so is Marco Antonio Barrera, who is already in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Okay? So, Amir Khan's a special name when it comes to Terrence Crawford's wins, because Amir Khan really had a resume. Problem with it was, Amir Khan has never been the same since the Danny Garcia fight. In fact, if you look at it, he's been carefully selecting his opponents. The guys Amir Khan has faced, and remember, Amir Khan has been at welterweight since 2013. Okay? He faced an old-ass Louis Collazo. He then went on to face Devin Alexander when Devin Alexander was not a world champion or anything. In fact, he has not won a world championship title since 2013 when he lost to Lamont Peterson. Okay? So he'd been winning title fights and all of that. He'd been beating guys like Zab Judah, and Paulie Malignaggi, and Marco Antonio Barrera. He'd been beating everybody. Okay, even Marcos Maidana he beat. He scraped up his teeth, but he got through. But when it comes to, and he dropped Lamont Peterson too, and you could argue that they kind of were biased against Amir Khan, but that's another story. But the point is, since then, Amir Khan hasn't been the same. So Amir Khan has been beaten, and he's been knocked out by anybody. Any he stepped up in competition to a higher level, he's been beaten. Okay, it was Danny Garcia. Then next was Canelo Alvarez, and then the last was Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, he got stopped by all the top tier guys. If he's going to jump up again and face some top tier guy, I don't care if it's Kell Brook, I don't care who it is, one of them top tier welterweights, he's going to get stopped. Okay. And we all knew this. I predicted Amir Khan would get knocked out. Everybody predicted Amir Khan was going to get knocked out by Terrence Crawford, right? Because that's a step up in level. And once he steps up in level, post Danny Garcia, he gets knocked out. But anyway, that was Amir Khan. And then Gavaliauskas, well, he was hardly known. And then he had gotten beaten by, unofficially that is, by Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson beat him. That's a tough Philly fighter, not greatest balance in the world, southpaw. And they beat him. He beat Gavaliauskas. They gave it a draw, but he beat him. Because they wanted Gavaliauskas to face Terrence Crawford. Why wasn't Ray Robinson facing Terrence Crawford? I don't know. And Ray Robinson beat him in the amateurs. So that would have been great for that to have happened. But I guess Bob Arum wanted his top-ranked fighter to face Gavaliauskas, so that's what happened. But Ray Robinson would have been a better matchup against Terrence Crawford, in my opinion. Both saw pause. I still think Terrence Crawford would have beaten him, but maybe not. Who knows? But Terrence Crawford his performance was not that great. He was getting hit by Gavaliauskas. He only got him out of there in the 9th round. Gavaliauskas was the guy beating him to the punch, landing a whole set of straight rights, landing body punches and combinations. The only thing was Gavaliauskas couldn't take Terrence Crawford's punch as well as Terrence Crawford could take his. And he even dropped Terrence Crawford, okay? Anyway, Gavaliauskas, not much of depth in the resume, good fighter, but, Terrence Crawford, just, it is what it is, okay? And Amir Khan has a deep resume, great pedigree, just not the Amir Khan of super lightweight. The Amir Khan was at super lightweight, he ain't that guy. In other words, Terrence Crawford faced him on the downswing. Next, we got this year Naoya Inoue. Naoya Inoue has a resume this year that's impressive. He faced the IBF world champion at bantamweight, and beat him. Now, that IBF champion, if I recall correctly, he wasn't the best of his division. Clearly not. But he had defended his title successfully twice. Okay? It was a vacant title I think he went for, and he defended it successfully twice before Inoue annihilated his ass. Knocked him out. Okay? Got him out of there really quick. Inoue, though, the second fight that Inoue had was against a legend, a Hall of Famer, and that was future Hall of Famer Nonito Donaire. In that fight, Nonito Donaire wrecked Inoue's face, broke his orbital bone, had him in trouble a number of times. I thought it was a close fight. I thought Inoue pulled it out because of the knockdown, 114, 113. It would have been 6 rounds to 6. Great, fantastic, entertaining fight. This is kind of the fighter of the year kind of stuff. It was fantastic. Inoue showed hard grit, even though he was getting caught with shots. Because his defense wasn't always great on point, and of course the veteran Nonito Donaire being strong enough to take his punches, he dropped Nonito Donaire in the 10th round, I believe it was. Caught him with a body shot, and Donaire went down. Donaire get back up, survived the round, came back hard and strong in the 11th and 12th. I thought this was a fantastic fight. One of the fights of the year. Get Errol Spence versus Sean Porter. That was another fight of the year in which Sean Porter was dropped. Fantastic kind of sort of stuff, okay? Twos and froze and that kind of shit. At the end of the day, I thought if you're going to talk about somebody who's a fighter of the year, you've got to put in there Naoya Inoue. Let me tell you why. The IBF world champion that he beat was a world champion. Didn't have a deep resume, but he was a world champion. But the second guy that he faced is a future Hall of Famer. Not only was he world champion, defying the odds, even though he was up in age, but he was a multiple weight class, facing names such as Nicholas Walters, facing names such as Guillermo Rigondeaux, the southpaw guy from Eastern Europe or Europe, Victor Archinian. This man has a resume of names. When you talk about Nonito Donaire, he's got names that he has faced in the business. Deep resume. The man has the heart of a champion. He showed that he was a world-class champion. He wore the WBA belt with pride. Super championship belt, that is. I gotta say, that makes Naoya Inoue, if he's not number one candidate for fighter of the year, you gotta put him up there. Alright, let's sweep Naoya Inoue aside, and let's look at Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao faced two guys this year. By the way, Naoya Inoue also a multiple weight class guy, beat multiple people and all of that shit, right? So did Terrence Crawford, by the way. Best wins, notable names. Terrence Crawford don't have no Hall of Famers on his list, possibly Amir Khan, but we don't know. So far, Amir Khan had a great super lightweight career, but that's about it. When it comes to Naoya Inoue, multiple weight classes guy again, one sure ballot Hall of Famer on his resume this year. Let's look at Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao faced Adrian Broner, who was a 4-divisional world champion. And Adrian Broner has faced some names in the sport of boxing. Besides Manny Pacquiao, Adrian Broner has faced Sean Porter, future Hall of Famer possibly. Okay, he has also faced Marcos Maidana, dominant force, not a future Hall of Famer. He's also faced Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi was the WBA world champion. He also has faced names such as the guy that knocked out Jorge Linares. His name just skipped my mind. And he also faced Ponce de Leon. Okay, so there's about 4 recognizable names. Adrian Broner being, 4-weight class world champion, but more importantly, he also faced 4 notable names. The guy will come to my mind sometime in the future. It's a southpaw. So Adrian Broner is a guy who has some cachet, some credit. He has faced some good fighters. He's lost to a lot of them, especially most recently after Paulie Malignaggi win. He's been losing to the top tier guys. He also faced Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman has two notable names that we should recognize. Danny Garcia. We don't even have to talk about Danny Garcia's resume. Danny Garcia has been the WBC World Champion. He was the WBC World Champion when Keith Thurman did it. It was a unification match. He beat Danny Garcia. All right. Danny Garcia has faced names like Lamont Peterson. He has faced names like Amir Khan. He's faced names like Eric Morales. And he's faced the who's who of boxing. Okay, the who's who of boxing. Danny Garcia just keeps on plying true and facing all these guys. Okay. So anyway, he beat Keith Thurman, and then Keith Thurman also faced Sean Porter. Sean Porter, who became later the WBC World Champion, beating Danny Garcia to get the vacant WBC belt. Was the IBF World Champion until Cal Brook took it from him. So, Showtime Sean Porter, who just recently faced Errol Spence Jr., gave him all he could handle, and Errol Spence dropped him in I believe it was the 10th or 11th round. I think it was the 11th round, and I think that was the decider of the fight. Anyway, at the end of the day, I will say that Keith Thurman's got those two solid names on his name, and those guys could easily become future Hall of Famers, Danny Garcia and also Sean Porter. Okay? And he also faced Manny Pacquiao, right? Manny Pacquiao. So, those are the two guys that Manny Pacquiao faced this year. And, of course, you don't even want to talk about Manny Pacquiao's resume. It's very, very deep. My point being that Manny Pacquiao faced one guy, former 4-time world champion, or 5-time world champion, something like that. And Manny Pacquiao also faced the current super champion, WBA's welterweight super champion. Okay? Does he beat back Naoya Inoue? It's very difficult to say, because Adrian Broner wasn't a world champion when he faced him, but he was a 4-divisional world champion with some really who's who of boxing that he faced. And then when he faced Keith Thurman had fought two really good names, was world champion, he was undisputed, he was unified world champion, WBC, WBA, who was once the #1 welterweight in the world. So that's kind of tough to say, but Inoue, I thought, didn't have the depth of champions, but he had two world champions. So I don't know, man. Nonito Donaire had a hell of a resume, and he probably have a deeper resume than Adrian Broner. Keith Thurman, when you compare Keith Thurman to the other guy, but Keith Thurman was a world champion. So I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up between Naoya Inoue and also Manny Pacquiao. And the last guy is Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez faced two world champions. He faced Danny Jacobs, and he also faced Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev had faced two Hall of Famers, possibly even three. These three names are Bernard Hopkins, Jean Pascal, who he faced twice and beat twice by knockout, and then Andre Ward, #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world after he beat Sergey Kovalev, and arguably beat him twice. Okay? The first fight was a close one, because Kovalev had knocked him down. So, it was a very close fight. We're talking 114, 113. That's how Andre Ward took that fight. It's very close. Unanimous decision, but it was close. What I would say about that is Canelo Alvarez, that's Sergey Kovalev. Then Danny Jacobs, he was also a world champion, but he had a deeper resume than, say, the opponent that Naoya Inoue had. He faced Hall of Famer Triple G. He lost to him, but it was a close decision, again, loss, unanimous decision, but close decision, loss. And he also faced had faced Dmitry Pirog, Peter Quillen. These are names we're talking about. Pirog may go into the Boxing Hall of Fame, may not go into the Boxing Hall of Fame. And he also faced one more top tier name, which will come to my mind in a minute. But the point being that Canelo faced two really deep world champions, guys who had Hall of Famers on their resume. They didn't always win to the Hall of Famers, but they had Hall of Famers on their resume. So, It's disputable between Pacquiao and Donaire for Fighter of the Year, but it is not disputable about Canelo Alvarez, who's also 4 division world champion. Even though I say 3 division because he still hasn't gotten the super championship belt from Callum Smith. He's got the regular championship belt, but that will be resolved very soon. I think he's going to fight at 168 for a championship belt, so it doesn't really matter. And he may face Billy Joe Saunders. They had interviewed him about that. But I think the Fighter of the Year is Canelo Alvarez. I think he separates himself from Naoya Inoue, who I think does maybe about the same as Manny Pacquiao or a little bit better than Manny Pacquiao. But I do think that Canelo Alvarez takes the Fighter of the Year. Now, let's talk about pound for pound number 1 in the world. Now, since pound for pound ratings are happening every year, the assessment of pound for pound, it varies how different people may assess it, but this is how I assess it. You're looking at what you could do for me lately. So in boxing, it's what you can do for me lately. Yes, we do consider also your overall record, but at the end of the day, we're looking at what you did for me lately. And just like how we determine Fighter of the Year by level of opposition, depth of opposition, and that sort of thing, I think it's pretty much the same way it goes, except because Pacquiao has a depth of a resume throughout his career, and Canelo and Terence Crawford and Lomachenko and Inoue, you have to consider those things too. And when you do consider them, I mean, Lomachenko's done some phenomenal things in 15 fights. But at the end of the day, you can't put Lomachenko above Canelo or Pacquiao. You just can't. Nor Terence Crawford. They did not face opposition on the level of what Canelo and Pacquiao did. Or even Inoue. Inoue doesn't match up to Pacquiao and Canelo because of the depth of resume that Canelo and Pacquiao have in their overall careers. You just have to consider that as well. And especially Pacquiao, he dwarfs everybody when it comes career-wise. Okay? He gets his chips in there. The thing about it is, since it's done year for year, while you do kind of consider their background, their depth of resume in their careers, it's not as much as you would consider their level of opponents that they did recently. So just like with the Fighter of the Year, you have to look at that in pound-for-pound status. And when you look at it, I have to say that pound-for-pound number 1 in the world today is still Canelo. I think he's the Fighter of the Year, and I think he's also the guy who's pound-for-pound number 1 right now. Mainly because Canelo, again, when you look at his depth of resume, look at his performances against the depth of resume, remember he jumped up 2 weight classes to face Sergey Kovalev, and he knocked him out. And it was a good competitive fight. Tactical, but competitive. When you look at that, and then who Sergey Kovalev is, who Danny Jacobs is, who Triple G is, who Miga Cotto is, okay? These are Hall of Famers you're talking about, right? I'm just going to walk it back to Miga Cotto. I could walk it back before that to Erislandy Lara, to Floyd Mayweather. You know, I can walk it back. He just got a whole bunch of Hall of Famers on his resume. He got Hall of Famers, guys who are going to be in the Boxing Hall of Fame for sure. He got that down pat on his resume. All right? When you look at Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman, young, strong champion. I don't know if he'll become a Hall of Famer. He doesn't have that depth of resume yet. But, you know, Manny Pacquiao now, you know, he has faced, you know, Canelo in those, you know, has faced last year 1 Hall of Famer. But if you just go back with Canelo, I don't know. I don't care how much you want to go back. You can go back to 2013 if you want. You can go back, you know, 7 years, or you can go back 5 years. In the last 5 years, this is 2015 to 2020, right? In the last 5 years, Canelo has faced, he has faced 3 Hall of Famers. 3 Hall of Famers. He's faced Sergey Kovalev. He's faced Gennady Golovkin, and he's faced Miga Cotto. Not bad. Not bad. Right? So, you know, that's 3 Hall of Famers. Manny Pacquiao in the last 5 years has faced Floyd Mayweather, Timothy Bradley. That's it. 2 Hall of Famers. Right? In the past 5 years, Terence Crawford has faced Amir Khan. That's it. He ain't faced no other Hall of Famers, right? You look at Nolito. You look at Naoya Inoue. He's faced one Hall of Famer. You look at Vasily Lomachenko, and he's faced no Hall of Famers since 2015. Potentially Guillermo Rigon now. He has no Hall of Famers on his resume at this present point in time. When you look at Deontay Wilder, he has the potential to face a Hall of Famer in Tyson Fury. He may have one. See what I'm saying? I'm just showing you guys how the pound for pound status could go. If you look at, and this is just off the top of my head, I'm not even really trying to like think this through, right? It's just off the top of my head. Who's the other guys that we were talking about that were top pound for pound? So, I mean, Errol Spence Jr. on the other hand, he got Mikey Garcia. He got Mikey Garcia, who potentially could be a Hall of Famer when all is said and done. All right? Potentially a future Hall of Famer. Was on the pound for pound list. Right? So, Errol Spence got one possibly Hall of Famer right there. If he faces Terrence Crawford, that would be two. Errol Spence, by the way, I did not talk about him for Fighter of the Year. Errol Spence fought two really good opponents. He fought Mikey Garcia, who was currently the lightweight champion of the world, unified lightweight champion of the world, 4-divisional world champion, on the pound for pound list when he faced Mikey Garcia. After he beat Mikey Garcia, we were saying he is number one pound for pound. It made sense. And he dominated him. And then he faced Showtime Sean Porter. Wasn't pound for pound, but Showtime Sean Porter's faced just about everybody. His resume is probably the most decorated resume in the welterweight division, even though he hasn't got all wins. He fought names like Kell Brook. He fought names like Adrian Broner. He's fought names like Keith Thurman. And he's also faced names like Danny Garcia. Now add that to his list. Add also Errol Spence Jr. to his list. He's got a fucking decorated welterweight list. The only two people he still hasn't gotten the top tier welterweights is Terrence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao. And I do hope Terrence Crawford takes a fight with him. We're hearing he's going up to 154 or bringing the 154 down to 147. I don't know what Terrence Crawford's doing. I don't know if Bo Mack and they are going to have him face Errol Spence Jr. or he's going to move up in weight. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what Terrence Crawford's going to do, but whatever they decide to do with Terrence Crawford, hopefully it's to face the best. Because I'm hearing about this Patrick, I can't pronounce his last name, Teixera or something like that. I don't even know who the fuck that guy is. And I haven't researched him. Because I say, I ain't bothering myself. This dude should be facing names. He's not facing no names. You know what I mean? It's just what it is. Kell Brook will be fighting very soon. So that'll be an event to look forward to. I think it's in either February or the end of this year. Something like that. But this is what we have, right? So those are the guys that we're talking about. And if you look at it, again, Canelo is like hands down pound for pound number one in the world right now. Okay? And you cannot be pound for pound number one in the world and you're facing subpar competition. Especially in the year. I mean, Terrence Crawford, who did he face? Amir Khan, faded Amir Khan. Punch drunk Amir Khan. And then he faced Gavaliauskas. Who's that? We don't know. You can't make pound for pound list with that. Deontay Wilder got a better resume than Terrence Crawford. That's not good to hear. And he matched Luis Ortiz. All right? If you got a better resume, I mean, Terrence Crawford got a better resume than Tyson Fury. Definitely got a better resume than Tyson Fury this year. Tyson Fury, you can't call him the number one. I can't call him the number one heavyweight in the world. No. Hell no. You would not. You're not the number one heavyweight in the world. Not with that resume. Even Anthony Joshua got a better resume than you. He faced a guy that was better competition than you. You got some really low rank competition. No, you can't be number one heavyweight in the world facing that kind of competition. Hell no. Wilder and Anthony Joshua are ahead of you, and Wilder would probably be the top guy right now because he faced higher ranked guys. Even though Dominic Breazeale's not probably a better fighter than one of the guys that Tyson Fury had, he was ranked higher. So that's how it goes. You gotta be fair. I like Tyson Fury. I'm not a fan of Tyson Fury like that. Not a fan of none of them heavyweights like that. But I admire all of them. I would like to see them face each other. and Dillian White get in the mix too. And Luis Ortiz get some more fights. So Povetkin's doing his thing. I don't know if he's got the complexion for the protection. I don't know what the fuck it is. Povetkin getting all the good fights, whereas, and he's not complaining. Whereas Luis Ortiz, I don't know what's wrong with Luis Ortiz. He should be getting a lot of fights. And Dillian White too. And if Luis Ortiz can't get a fight and Dillian White can't get a fight, then they should face each other. It's really that simple. All right, so keeping it going. So basically, that's what I think the number one fighter of the year and the pound for pound number one in the world right now, I think, is Canelo Alvarez. Okay, you can make a case for Naoya Inoue. So Errol Spence faced Sean Porter, was a world champion. Okay, got deep resume, and he also faced Mikey Garcia. Okay, shit, for that kind of resume, which is pretty deep, he actually rallies Canelo. So this is how I got it for fighter of the year. I got Canelo, then I got Errol Spence, then I got Manny Pacquiao, then I got Inoue. So it goes Canelo number one, Errol Spence a close number two, okay? Then Manny Pacquiao number three, and Naoya Inoue number four. And number five would probably be I think it's Terrence Crawford. Because Lomachenko ain't faced no world champion and nobody with a deep resume like Amir Khan. Amir Khan was washed up. But he faced some good competition. I think Lomachenko will be number 6. Yeah. No. Would it be Wilder? Would it be Wilder, Terrence Crawford, Lomachenko? What would it be, boy? Would it be Wilder, Lomachenko, Terrence Crawford? Wilder, Lomachenko, Terrence Crawford. That's how it go. Wilder. No. Lomachenko, Wilder, Terrence Crawford. Something like that. That's how it go. Because I'm just thinking it through. I'm thinking it on the fly. None of them face world champions. Don't know. Terrence Crawford. See, the Amir Khan thing, it's tricky, It's tricky. But anyway, I don't know. It's one of those three would be in whatever order. They'd be in the top 7. When it comes to pound for pound, ain't no fucking way Terrence Crawford's pound for pound number 1 right now. You can't do it. That's ridiculous. And then you guys compare him to Floyd Mayweather. Y'all say Floyd Mayweather was pound for pound number 1. Listen, man, Floyd faced people. He didn't face no fucking Gavaliauskas when he was pound for pound number 1. You don't stay pound for pound number 1 fighting Strubs. You don't. Right? So, I mean, you want to be pound for pound number 1, you got to face people. Okay? So he cannot be pound for pound number 1. And it's not Lomachenko either. They didn't face the competition to give them that spot. All right? So that's why it has to be either Canelo, even Errol Spence Jr. is ranked above Terrence Crawford right now. He's going to be ranked above him because he faced, listen to the competition Errol Spence faced. Pound for pound fighter Mikey Garcia, 4-divisional world champion. Current unified lightweight world champion, jumping up 2 weight classes to face him. That's like Juan Manuel Marquez jumping up to face Floyd Mayweather, or like Manny Pacquiao jumping up to face Oscar De La Hoya. You got to face people, man. You got to face people. So you can't give these guys pound for pound status. You can't get him pound for pound number 1 status. Terrence Crawford is not pound for pound number 1. Vasily Lomachenko is not pound for pound number 1. Not based on their performance this year. No, there's no way. You can't. Deontay Wilder is not pound for pound number 1 either. They're guys who faced better qualified, deeper resumes, better competition than Deontay Wilder, Terrence Crawford, Vasily Lomachenko. Now Inoue, now you make a case for him. The problem with it is the guy who was the IBF World Champion, he didn't have a deep resume like say a Danny Jacobs or like a Sergey Kovalev or like a Keith Thurman or like a that's the problem. Okay, Nonito Donaire had a deep resume. He's a future Hall of Famer, all that kind of shit. Okay, so that's the only thing. But Inoue, he's competing with Pacquiao on that. He really is. So that's what I got to say about that. So let's go into the other topic, the last topic we want to talk about with you guys. I'm sorry I can't live stream this, but you guys should be cool with it. The last one I want to talk about is who was, in your opinion, most exciting fighter of 2019? Hands down, anybody with a half a brain would be able to tell you, in 2019, the most exciting fighter that you ever did see would have been electric Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder knocked out everybody. He has knocked out almost everybody in his career. Like now, he knew he almost knocked out everybody in his career. One guy went the distance with him, and then, of course, Nonito Donaire just went the distance with a very competitive fight with him and damaged him, hurt him bad. So what do I say about that? I would say that, and Errol Spence has been also another candidate for most exciting fighter. He had two very exciting fights. One was very dominant, and the other one was just an all-out war. You can say the same for Sean Porter as well. So who was the most exciting fighter of 2019? We got a whole bunch of exciting fights. Well, who was the most exciting? So you had Pacquiao in the Adrian Broner fight, and the Keith Thurman fight was a very exciting fight. You had Deontay Wilder with explosive knockout power, knocking out two guys. One guy he had rematched before. And then you had Errol Spence Jr. in some very top tier quality fights. You had Terrence Crawford, but he was knocking out guys that supposed to get knocked out. They're not on his level, nor any top tier welterweights level, so I'll leave that out. But it still was exciting fights. He had a lot of exciting fights, right? Now, I would say that Deontay Wilder would take that. I think Deontay Wilder takes it. I think he was dominant, but he was also very exciting. And anytime you think about a Deontay Wilder fight, you're going to get excitement. So I feel, well, at least for the casual fan. So I think Deontay Wilder might have taken it. It could have been Errol Spence, but I think that Errol Spence dominated Mikey Garcia, didn't get him out of there. And I think that because of that reason, it wasn't as exciting as Deontay Wilder getting the finishing touch. Of course, you had Gervonta Davis as well, who had a very exciting splash against the scrub, and then he had an interesting fight against Yurkus Gamboa and getting him out in the final round. But I think all those guys pale in comparison to Deontay Wilder and what he's done, bringing electrifying excitement to the heavyweight division. I think he is the most exciting fighter of 2019. Leave your comments in the comment section below. What do you think about what I just said? And you can subscribe to my channel. Don't forget you can donate to my channel via Western Union or MoneyGram. You can talk to me for details. Don't forget you can donate to my channel. Come on now, donate to my channel. Come on, people. Don't slack off. Donate to my channel. Okay? And don't let me out of beg, you guys. And I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. I'm waiting for this video to go to 1 exact hour, and then I'm gonna peace out. If there are any videos you guys would want me to do, let me know. I'm trying to get my software together on this phone so that I can actually start shooting videos with actual video and footage, so you guys can see what it is I'm trying to explain to you guys. Especially, I want to respond to intangible boxing concerning the Floyd Mayweather TBE claim that I gave, and showing him why Muhammad Ali Henry Armstrong, and even Sugar Ray Robinson, they don't even come close to this dude. They don't come close to him in terms of skills, in terms of smarts, in terms of ability in the ring. So I really wanted to respond to him, but I got to show you. You guys have a great one.